Welcome to SYNKD On Air. I'm your host, Angelique Robb, and today I have Gabe Bustos with Hector's Home Service Marketing. Welcome, Gabe. How are you today?
Hey, Angelique, I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me on.
Sure, sure. Well, we're happy to have you on to help our business owners learn a bit about taking their marketing to the next level and what your experience is and how you can help people. Yeah, tell us a little bit about how you started this, Hector's Home Service Marketing, and why you did it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's see, I turned 36 in 3 months, and I've been an entrepreneur since I was 19. So that's 17 years. And before this business, I ran four different businesses of different types, right? They all had two things in common. One was I had an obsessive focus on quality of service. And I'm sure that's something that everybody listening can relate to, right? We're all
Definitely, yeah.
passionate about providing the best service possible. That's what we're experienced in. That's what we nerd out about and whatnot. The second thing they all had in common was they all failed because we couldn't figure out our marketing, right? We couldn't find a trusted marketing partner. We couldn't figure it out ourselves. And without that ability to drive predictable lead flow and predictable
Yes.
sales, right, we burned out. And that was just the fate of all four of those businesses. So after, trying and failing forward, albeit, but trying and failing forward four times, I said, you know what, enough is enough. There's a missing piece here and I need to learn that myself. And that's when I really switched gears and said, if I can solve this piece for myself and for others, the sky is the limit on the future of my entrepreneurial career, right? So I got
Mm.
into learning marketing, quickly pivoted to working with small local businesses just because it's a passion of mine. And then even then, we were trying to do too many things for too many different people, right? So we said, you know what, we need to pick one industry to work with. And that's when we decided to work with home service contractors, just because I believe in the value of what they do. Every contractor I've met truly cares about providing a quality service and a great customer service for their clients. And my dad was a contractor growing up, so it was in my family. Anyways, that's how I ended up here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's also, you know, it's a it's like you said, people that really wanna give a quality service, and, like, the business ownership is really it's not like they said, "I wanna own a business." You know, they did something they were good at and believed in, and running the business can sometimes take you away from giving a quality service.
Totally.
Just the nuts and bolts of running a business, so it is a challenge. Well, great. Well, and so how long have you had Hector's Home Service Market?
We've been doing this for 5 years. We've been working with,
Okay.
like I said, the first couple years was anybody. The second year was anybody that's a small local business, and then the last two
Mhm.
years has been anybody that's a contractor, a
Okay.
small family-owned contractor. Not like we're not working with like Brothers Services or anything like that. We like fighting for the little guy.
Awesome,
But yeah,
and what have you found as, the struggles? What have you learned from these companies that you are helping?
well, I'm happy to go into lots of things regarding marketing, right? Regarding like the steps that they can take and whatnot. But kind of a higher level than that, I think one of the things that we found a lot is two things. One is that everybody has been burned by a marketing partner before, right? Everybody I talk to, like we have such a bad reputation in our industry, right? And it's a bummer because not everybody's like that. But I understand that everybody's had a bad experience with a marketing agency before that overpromises, underdelivers, right? Hides things behind complex, confusing reports, says, it's coming next month. Just hold on. Just keep paying your invoice, right? You're going to get it, right? And then they never do. So that's been really a bummer to hear just how pervasive that is. And as I've done this more from my side, I have my theories as to why that is. We can come back to that later if you want. But the second thing is that, you know, really the power of focus has been a common theme because with any marketing, with any business, right? One of the core variables of success is just how long can you stay committed and consistent with something, right? So I don't care who the marketing person is, right? If a business owner is just trying this for like a couple months and then changing gears and trying this for a couple months and then changing gears and trying something else for a couple months, It doesn't matter if any one of those are actually a winning strategy. If you don't stick with it long enough, right, it's never going to have chance to
Right.
work. So there are several different marketing strategies that can work for folks, but they all require a level of, I don't want to say patience, because that falls into this like, oh, just wait and like promise, and like I get that there's some bad vibes with that, right? But as you know, as an entrepreneur, right, it does take a level of commitment and consistency and patience. Again, not even patience. I'll say focus, right? Staying focused on the same goal long enough for it to actually mature and materialize for you. I'm happy to go into more detail on the marketing end, but I usually like starting there because that's
Yeah.
kind of a common thread wherever people are.
So, I mean, how long should you focus on one strategy to get the most out of
Yeah,
it?
I would say like, at least 3 months, right? And that's true of like if you're running paid ads, right? Even though you can generate leads quickly from paid ads, it still takes 2 to 3 months to really optimize a campaign and really start to see a good performance with it, right? The algorithms, like a lot of it's based on like Google or Facebook, whichever ad platform you're running, just needs enough data. They need enough clicks. They need enough interactions of people who are looking at their ads, clicking on their ads, going all the way through to calling for them to get enough data to say, okay, like, these 10 people made it all the way through. Let's now find more people that look like those 10, and then you'll see the performance of campaigns increase. Same thing with
Okay.
organic, right? Organic. So this is like SEO. This is like getting your website and your Google profile to rank first in search organically without paying for that top spot. Oftentimes that takes a little bit longer, but you'd be surprised how many contractors we work with that are in like small to mid-size cities or suburbs where actually the competition is not that high, and we can really move the needle for folks quickly, again within 3 months.
Hmm.
But if you're in like a big metro that's very competitive and whatnot, it's going to take a little bit longer depending on where somebody
Okay.
is. But the short
Okay.
answer to your question, I would say at least 3 months, right? 3 months is like enough time to get enough data and enough, activity where you can have a sense of like, is this really, does this show potential for me or not, right? Or have a sense of like, here's what the cost per lead is going to be around for this service, right? And once you know your
Okay.
cost per lead, you can kind of work into your cost per acquisition. And once you know your cost per acquisition, right, that's a powerful metric to know as a business, because if you can say, okay, it's going to take me $200 to acquire a customer, how much profit do I need to make on that to justify it?
Yeah.
And you start to do those next level
Yeah.
calculations,
Making sure that you can afford to, yeah, to acquire the
right?
clients that you want, the
And it
right
might
clients.
reveal that you need
Yeah.
to, right,
Charge more.
exactly. It might
Yeah.
reveal that you need to charge more, or you need to be targeting a higher, you know, income clientele, right? There's a lot of things that
Hmm.
get teased out once you start to learn like what it actually costs to acquire customers in a predictable way and not
Yeah.
just like at the whims of like referrals whenever they happen.
Well, and I think again for home services, I'm talking more landscape services, you know, there's a big jump between, word of mouth, referrals by neighbors, and then when you make that next level jump to, okay, I'm going to hire another crew or another 2 crews, then you need to feed them with enough work to keep them going. And, if you don't know how much it costs to acquire a good customer, your your costs, your overheads may not cover what you need them to cover. I think it's a really important, you know, overheads in general, you have to know, but the new client part is really important when you're scaling your business or even slowly growing your business.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's that predictability, that's really the theme of what defines that next jump that you're talking about is like,
Mm,
it's not just can I get leads, it's can I get leads with some kind of predictability, right? To
mm,
say, okay, if I
yeah.
put in $1,000, it's going to get me 10 leads or whatever it is, right? If I get 10 leads, I close, 4 sales. Okay, now that's some predictability that you can start making some, informed bets on, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's the real shift that occurs with, any kind of intentional marketing strategy, right? Like we do digital
Hmm.
marketing and it's 2026 and that's the age we're in now, right? Any kind of like putting budget into a marketing campaign, measuring that, tracking that, having that data to say, okay, here's, what every dollar is going to get me back. And then you can start to, like you said, hire more crews, right? Make other bets to grow. Cause otherwise you're in this chicken or the egg situation. You know what I mean? And it's hard to know, like, well, do I hire somebody? I'm not sure if I've got leads coming in, or you've got leads coming in and you're like, I can't handle this all. Do I hire somebody? But there might not be leads next week, So
So, yeah, do you want to dive into more details about
sure.
how you've helped companies and what you recommend?
Absolutely. Sure. And, I always like to break things down into like steps 1 through 3, steps 1 through 4 are all things that business owners can do on their own, right? Or with their team internally. You don't need to like hire an expert to do these things, right? And I always recommend folks to do these things first because they're going to have the highest impact right away. And then we can get into, okay, now if you really want to step it up, right, then you're going to have to find some support, whether that's an agency, whether that's an internal, like an employee that you hire. But ultimately, it gets to the point where things get very labor intensive and very technical. And that's not the highest and best use of a business owner, right? Theirs is focused on growing the team and running the business and providing customers with the best service possible, right? So if I were to break down kind of the first few steps on what people can do out there who are listening and are kind of like ready to start making this jump out of just referral land, or maybe folks are like using lead purchasing platforms, like Angie's or Home Advisor or whatnot. Anybody out there listening who's done that before knows that those are not great, right? Because, somebody submits their information and all of a sudden they're getting vultured by 5 companies at the same time. And you're in a race to the bottom on who can provide the
I was
cheapest
gonna
price.
say that race
Right.
to the bottom is the other thing. Yeah.
Exactly. It's not what you want to be. So as far as owning your own marketing, as far as, right, being in control of your own destiny, the first thing you can do is to set up a Google business profile and to complete it in depth, right? So for anybody who's not aware, Google business profile is like the Google Maps. So like when you search for a landscaper, right, in Google Maps or in Google, and it shows you the maps where the reviews are, that's your Google business profile. Most folks have one set up, right, and they've got some reviews, which is great, and that's number 2. We'll come back to that in a minute. But number 1 is just to complete your profile thoroughly, right? So when you sign into your profile, it'll give you an option to say like edit, right? And then it'll give you a bunch of fields. It'll ask you, what's your service area? What's the services you do? What's the category,
Okay.
the categories you're in, all these different check boxes and fields that you can fill out. And it's like, you'd be amazed at how many businesses don't have that entirely filled out, even though they're spending thousands and thousands of dollars a month on paid ads or things like that, right? And this is something that you can do in 30 minutes just yourself. So step 1 is to fill that business profile out entirely. And let me add one kind of addition to that. And that's that you want to include some of the keywords, the search phrases that
Okay.
your customers are looking for you with. And again, it might sound technical. It's really not. For landscapers, it's as simple as landscaping in my city, right? So I'm in Baltimore, Maryland. If I was filling out my Google business profile, some of my most important key phrases or keywords would be, landscaper in Baltimore, Maryland, right? And if you've got more
Okay.
specific services, like I do tree installation or I do turf installation or I do whatever it is, commercial landscaping, right? You want to make sure you include that too. Okay. One more little tip in there, and this will make it easy for everybody, right? I'm sure everybody now is aware of ChatGPT or Gemini or these AI tools, right?
Mhm.
Using like something like ChatGPT will make this really easy for you because you can just, like, let's say I'm a landscaper in Baltimore and I'm going to fill out my profile. I would go to ChatGPT and say, hey, I'm a landscaper in Baltimore. I'm getting ready to fill out my profile. Here are my main service areas and my main services. Can you help me complete my Google business profile in a way that includes some of these keywords in my information, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And what I would also do is if you have an about page or you have like a little, Google Doc with like about your company and your values, and give that to ChatGPT too and say, here's a little bit about my business.
Okay.
Here are my services.
Great
Can
idea.
you write my Google business profile in such a way that reflects our values, right? And sounds human and also incorporates these keywords, right? Into our thing. So that's tip number one. Let me stop there. Do you have any questions or anything that would be helpful with that?
No, I think that's great because I guess what you're saying is that is part of the search criteria that you're
Absolutely.
embedding and
Absolutely.
make sure that, and I'm thinking, "Ooh, I need to write this down so I can make sure that I'm doing
Yeah.
this for Sync
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
well."
Yeah. And again, I'm just focused on the things that folks can do out there themselves, right? Like in an hour or two, you know what I mean? Once you do this once, you don't have to do it again. It's not like you have to keep going back to your Google business profile and adding more stuff. If you're offering a new service, you want to get that in there, right? But like for the most part, you do this once and it's done,
Yeah.
Um, it's super important, super important. Step number 2 is reviews. Now, this one is a little bit harder, right? Because it takes some effort to reach out to customers and to ask people. And, sometimes it's like, don't always like asking people for reviews, but it's super, super, super important, right? If you think about when you're like going to order a new something on Amazon, right? Like what's the first thing you look for? Reviews, right?
Reviews, yeah.
When
Or
anybody
go to a
is
restaurant.
a
Yeah, a
restaurant,
new restaurant.
reviews, a movie to watch, reviews, right? And that's what people are doing when they're looking for your company as a landscaper, right? If they don't already know who you are and they're just looking for a landscaper near me or a landscaper in Baltimore, right? That is the first thing that they're going to look for is your reviews. So the Google reviews are not like sometimes, in the digital marketing world, there's a lot of things you do for the algorithms, if you will, right? And there's a lot of things you do for the people who are reading your content and reading your website and whatnot. Reviews is the one thing that is super important for both, right? It's super
Okay.
important for people looking for someone to find and who they're going to
Yeah.
call. And it's super important for these recommendation algorithms like Google or ChatGPT or, any other search, right? Like they look at the review. It's like 30%. It's like literally a third of what goes into who they decide to recommend first is, how many
Or the
reviews you've
reviews.
got and how good your
Yeah.
star rating is. So that's
Awesome.
super important.
Well, I know, and we've only recently started, like, chasing up people that said that they would review us
Yeah.
and didn't do it, and then,
Yeah.
"Remember, you said you would?"
I know.
It does take a bit of time and effort, but yeah, I can see
It's the
how,
most
especially if it works for the SEO and
absolutely.
obviously for client
Absolutely.
comfort,
And it's something
that's
that
important.
like, for example, as an agency, we can call it the other 70% for you, right? Remotely. Like we could do it, we're in Baltimore,
Yeah,
but we have people all over, right? Like we can just do it from our computers, right? The reviews is not something that somebody else can do for you, right?
yeah.
People can help and we
Well, the
help.
clients can.
Right.
They can
Right.
do it for you, but yeah,
Well, right. Right.
there's not an incentive for them to do it, I guess, is
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's like, even with our clients or like if somebody comes to us and they're asking, can we help them? We're always like, that's the one thing we can't control, right? It's always, we
Yeah.
can help you if you can get 5-star reviews, right? Or with our existing clients, it's like,
Yeah.
here's everything. It's going really well. And like, you need to get more reviews, right? So
How
anyways,
many reviews do you need to make
great
a difference?
question. Great question. So so the answer to that depends on your competition, right? So for anybody listening, I would do a search of, your service in your area. So landscaper in Baltimore, right? And whoever the top 3 are on Google Maps. So like the first is going to be some ad listings, right? And then just below that where the reviews show up, it's going to show you 3. Right? It might show you 4. There's one sponsored one, but it's going to be 3 non-sponsored ones, right? And you can see there, like, you don't need to be the top in those top 3, but you need to be higher than the lowest one, right? So
Okay.
if one of them has 100, one of them has 150, one of them has 50, you need to get at least 50,
51.
right? You want, and, it's not a super black, like, can you get 45 and still get it? Yes, right. Can you have 200 and still not be in the top if all your other stuff is not good? Like, yes, right. But, like, a simple rule
Okay.
of thumb is, like, look at the top 3, get enough to be in the top 3 where, because again, most people when they're searching don't go past 3. They just look at the top 3 and they call 1 or 2. Whoever picks up the phone and gives them a good experience is who they go with, right?
Yeah.
So, but a lot of times number 1 doesn't answer their phone. So, like, if you're in the top 3, anywhere in the top 3, you're good.
Very common. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very
So,
common to not hear back or to, yeah,
yeah.
have to
And
chase people.
and as far as like the number 1 tip to get more reviews, right, is if you're the person going out there yourself, it's to ask for it on the job, after you're done, before you leave, because how, like, even people, if you leave and you're following up
Out
with
of
them,
mind.
people mean to, but they're busy and they got a million things going
Yeah.
on. They don't do it, right? Exactly. So there's
Yeah.
nothing that replaces getting it on site at the end of the job. You ask them, is there anything else I could do to, for you to feel like this was a 5-star service? That kind of primes them a little bit. They say, no, it was great. Thanks so much. And then you say, okay, well, in that case, would you mind,
Yeah.
really helps my business, helps more folks find us, right? And you got it right there.
Have an iPad maybe, have it
Yeah.
ready,
With
well, I don't know if you
so
can do that because they have to sign into their own
correct.
details, don't they?
So
Okay.
what you would wanna do, yeah, they have to be signed in on their own. So what you would wanna do is either have like some cards that have a little QR code that they can scan,
Mhm.
or you can
Yeah.
just have a QR code like on your phone and you just hold up your phone and they scan your phone right there, right? And a QR code is free to make. It takes it doesn't take long. And then if you're an owner out there listening and you're not the one on jobs most of the time, the best thing that I always recommend is you can't pay customers for reviews, but you can pay your techs or your team. You can pay
Yeah.
your, and so, like, I always
Good
recommend people to
idea.
incentivize their team by paying them, or like having some reward on who gets the most at the end of the month or whatever it is to get it,
Great
right?
idea.
And,
Yeah.
like, people, if they've got some cash at the end of the rope on it, like, they take it more seriously, for sure they will,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and a great point because I think I don't know how most people do it, but I can say that how we did it, with my business would have been from the office side of things instead of the field side of things.
Right.
And just because, the guys were already the field team were already like focused on the next job and getting, and so we did that. But I can see your point about, do it face to face. Do it right there before you leave.
And
Yeah.
yeah, the definitely the second best substitute, or again, if the people on the field are not, they're not the people you want doing that, I get that too. In which case, the next best thing is a phone call, right? Like you were just saying. I would want my team member to text me as soon as they were done, right?
Hmm.
Driving away from the property. And then I would pick up the phone as quickly as I can and call that person and say, hey, like, I heard, and you do your thing, right? And you don't ask for the review right away. You build a relationship, you make sure they're happy,
Hmm.
all that stuff, right? But
Yeah.
again, even the difference between a phone call, which also is going to build like it's going to build brand value for you too. Like, it's an opportunity to build
Follow
that,
up.
deepen that relationship, ask for a referral, right? Make that customer experience even better. Anyways, a phone call is going to go a lot farther than just shooting them a text saying, hey, can you leave us a review? We're like, that's better than nothing. Don't get me wrong. But
Yeah.
in today's age, anytime you can add that personal touch, right? And just, it takes some time, it takes some energy, but like the reward is worth it because reviews are so, so valuable.
Hmm. Yeah. Totally agree. Awesome.
All
So
right.
we're on to number 3.
Tip number 3. Yes.
Okay.
Tip number 3 is, so in Google, there are a few different kind of a few different products, if you will, within Google, right? There are 2 ad products. One is called pay-per-click. Folks may have heard of that. That's like the traditional like AdWords where, you bid on specific keywords, right? And then when somebody clicks on it, you pay for the click. So it can work well. It's more for scaling. It's usually very expensive. It's very easy to waste money. This is one of those things that like you have to hire like an expert at,
Professional.
a professional, because like Google makes it super easy to like waste money on it, and like anyways, I won't go too much into that because that's not tip number 3. Tip number 3 is the other of the 2 ad products that Google provides, which is called local service ads, like the Google Guaranteed. Have you heard of that
Okay.
before? The Google
No, I haven't.
Guaranteed. So they're called local services ads. Okay. And what these are, again, if you're at home, do a Google search for like landscaper near me, right? And you'll see them. And at the very top, they are sponsored Google business profile listings. So it's not clicking to your website. It's like a sponsored listing of your Google business profile with your reviews and whatnot, right? And
Okay.
those are pay per lead, which is much better because it's lower risk, right? So when you're running that, you only pay if somebody actually calls you, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So there's a lot less risk involved. Okay. It's pay per lead. And the other benefit of it is that it's very easy to set up, right? Like they ask for some paperwork to like verify that you're who you say you are, your license and your insurance and things like that. And then it's similar to the Google business profile where there's like, it takes maybe 30 minutes you have to enter your service area and you have to enter your budget. And you have to enter, a couple details about your business, but not much. And then it runs for you, right? And you don't have to hire an expert to do it. You don't have to pay an agency like a monthly retainer to manage this, right? It's a great starting point because it's low risk. You only pay when you get a lead, and it's low, cost because you don't have to hire somebody to actually manage this, right? You said you can set it up yourself
Yeah.
and it'll, and it, so the reason it's number 3 though, is because you need a Google business profile. That's one. And you need some reviews because they're not going to, the local service ads are not going to, they're not going to recommend, they're not going to show your ad if you don't have good reviews. Right.
Okay. Yeah.
The one downside with the local service ads is that like the upside and the downside are the same kind of, because the upside is like, there's very little work required to do it. The downside is that there's very little control over whether it works or not, right? So always,
Okay.
it doesn't always work. Like, but when I say like the worst case scenario on other ad platforms are you spend $1,000 and you don't get anything because the money's wasted, right? It's just like people who
Hmm.
clicked on your ads but didn't actually call you. The worst case scenario with the local service ads is that you don't get any leads, but you don't spend any money, right? So
Okay.
if they don't show your ad, you're not spending any money. So it might not solve your problem. Like, obviously that's still not good if you want to get leads and it doesn't work, it's
Yeah.
not going to get you leads. But what it's not going to
But it
do
is
is
waste
waste your
money.
money and not get you leads, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
the local service ads is always step number 3. And what I recommend to folks where they don't even need, to hire somebody to do it, right? Now
Hmm.
it's hard to control, like it's hard to guarantee success with it. But even when we like,
But
again,
worth a try,
it's totally,
is
and
what you're
there's
saying. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. And like Google has they'll give you an account rep and like you can jump on a call with them and they'll like tell you which buttons to press to like make sure it's set up the best. There's still some
Hmm.
there's still some tricks of the trade. There's still some, the devil in the details sort of thing, but you can just jump on with a Google person for free and they'll walk you through it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You don't need to
Yeah.
hire an expert, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Outside expert to run it for you.
Okay.
If anything, you could hire somebody for like a one-time thing for a few $100 to set it up for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anything like ongoing or whatnot, there's very limited control. So like we don't even charge for it. We just like add it as a bonus on people that hire us for other things. But even like right now, like we're running 5 campaigns, 2 of them are working. One was working and now it's paused or it stopped spending, and 2 of them aren't spending. Now again, those people
Hmm.
aren't losing money. They're not paying us anything for that.
Yeah.
There's only so much we can't really do much about it, you know. So again, it's not going to be like a silver bullet for everybody, but it's a great step 3 because it totally might work for your business, and you're not going to lose any money. You're not going to
Yeah.
lose much time at
That's a
all.
great tip. Yeah.
Uh, how's that?
Good, good. That's good. And there's a step 4?
So basically from here on out is like where you would need to hire some help, right?
Okay.
That's about as far as, I mean, and I'm talking about specifically like Google marketing, right? Like I'm not talking about like, there's tons of things a business owner can do to hustle their business. And I'm sure most folks out here know that already. I'm talking about how to win on Google. Yeah. Complete your Google business profile, focus on getting reviews, set up local service ads. Those are all things that you can do without spending a dime to anybody else, and it's going to be things like, let's say you do those things, right? And then you bring on an outside expert, like
Yeah.
you want to have those things set up anyways. It's just going to, when somebody else comes in, it's just going to add on top of that, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
You haven't
not time
wasted time.
lost. It's not
You
wasted
still
time.
need those things.
Exactly. Step 4 would be, this is where you start to get into like, do you really want to spend your time like designing a website? Right? Probably not. The next most important thing would be having a website that is locally optimized. So meaning that it's optimized for like specifically for your location. Like so many websites that we see are either not optimized at all, or they're just like, they're not optimized for your location. Like they're just
Hmm.
optimizing for like landscaping in general, but that's not, there's like a million landscapers, right? Like you need to be optimized for your
Yeah.
location specifically, where there's only like maybe 20 landscapers, and you can actually get to the top,
You can rank. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Okay.
But again, that starts to get into, you know, you would want to hire a good expert for that. I call it step 4 and not step 5 because, again, even if you were to just build a website and optimize it locally properly, you can stop there, and like that's going to be a huge boost to your rankings and your visibility, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
even if you did that, even if you did steps 1 through 4, right? Had a great, you filled out your Google profile well, you had great reviews, you were running some local service ads, and you built a locally optimized website, or you had your website optimized for your location, and you're not in a super competitive area, like that might be enough to get you into the top. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And keep you there for a while until somebody knocks you off, right? But depending where you are, right? Like some areas are a lot more competitive, and you would need to get into step 5 and 6 and whatnot, which is more of like ongoing investment into growing your SEO and visibility. And that's more of like a
Yeah.
bringing on a agency on retainer who's like growing your visibility every month. But that
Yeah.
starts to be, a bit more expensive for people that aren't ready for that yet. Right. But again, I wouldn't even recommend doing that until you've done steps 1 through 4.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, there's a big leap there between step 4 and
Yep.
5.
Yeah.
What would you recommend to business owners that are wanting to work towards that step?
Yeah.
Making that step to 4 to 5. Is there a budgetary number? Is
I
there a
know. It's a good
certain
question.
revenue? I know it's hard to say because, there's probably a wide range of companies that you've worked with.
No. Yeah. No, it's a great question. It's a great question. Here's how I would answer it. As far as like, as far, so like, as far as like SEO retainers go, right? Like, I'm trying to think how to word this. For me, like we're at the point now where like anybody that's not charging more than $1,500, I'm like very questionable of, right? you could think about it in terms of
Okay.
landscape, right? Like it would be like, I
Yeah.
don't know the exact equivalent, but some service that
So
you know costs
$1,500 a month
a month. Yeah.
on up is kind of like if you can't get
Minimum.
much
Yeah.
lower than
Because what's going to
okay.
happen, it's like you're going to get poor quality service, and it's going to be wasted money. It's not actually going to work for you, right?
Okay.
And we've been there before, not because we were trying to like, we just didn't know. Like in the early days of us learning, we were like, oh, like we can just do like minimum things and help people at a smaller price point. And then we learned the hard way that like it just wasn't enough, and then it doesn't get you to the top. The way Google works, it's kind of like winner take all, right? It's like once you get to the
Okay.
if you're on page 2, you're a lot closer to page 1 than page 10, right? But until you actually get to
But it
page
doesn't really
1,
make a difference.
your phone's not
Yeah.
your phone's not going to ring. Like
That's yeah.
a cheaper service might get you from page 10 to page 4 or page 3. Technically there's some value in that, right? Of course, but it's not going to make your
But
phone
not
ring.
enough to move the needle
Not enough to
on
make your phone
your
ring.
yeah.
So there's a lot
Well,
of
that I mean,
yeah,
that in itself is very useful to
yeah,
know
yeah,
because I think that having the idea that, okay, $18,000 a year
exactly.
is what you need to work towards to move the needle.
And
And you want to grow your company, you want to get better leads, you want it to be less, you know, where's our next job coming from?
exactly,
Then you need to make sure that your overheads are putting in that 18,000 a year as a
exactly.
minimum.
And if you don't have that yet, then it's better just to save, and not waste money, right? Like that's what I don't want people to do, is to waste money, right? Like even if you have to save for an extra 6 months, that's better than going backwards, right?
Than trying to do it with $500 a month or
Exactly.
$1,000 a month. I think that's a great benchmark for people to have in their
Yeah.
minds and
Yeah.
to plan towards as being a minimum. And would you say that obviously everything depends on, what type of city you're in, how many competitors you have, all that. So all that gets wrapped up into it. So the more competitive an area, the more budget you need
Yes.
is yeah,
Yes.
okay.
I mean, and a lot of it depends on where you already are, right? Like some folks may have already they're not starting from ground zero, right? It's so like when
Yeah,
like if a new business comes to us and they're like, how many months, i.e., how many dollars will it take us to get to the top? We have to look at, okay, where are you versus where is your
you
competition at the
want to
top?
be
And
where your
depending on
competition is. Yeah,
exactly. Depending on what that gap is, we just close the gap. So we'll say, okay, here's what the gap is. It's going to take 4 months, or it's going to take 2 months, you know,
yeah,
or it's going to take like, if you don't have enough reviews, it's going to take 3 to 4 months of our service. Plus you need to get another 50 reviews, right? In order to close that gap,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. Okay.
But yeah. And then one other tip on this kind of price point question is like a common misconception. Like you'll hear the important thing is local SEO, right? So really like it's the Google Maps is where it's at. Like, and it's not that people search in Google Maps. It's people search on Google, but then those map listings where your reviews are, those 3 map listings,
Mhm.
anybody you can search at home, you'll see what I mean, right? That's where people go to call, because that's where people are going to see reviews. Like even if somebody like sees an ad somewhere else, a lot of times they're going to go to Google, type their search in and see who's got the best reviews, and they end up in that spot, right? Searching. So local SEO is all about getting you to be in the top of those Google Maps listings, right? But and so a lot of people out there will sell you a cheaper service saying we're just focused on the maps, right? Which like that is the right target. You want to be in the top of the maps. However, you have to think of your Google business profile as an extension of your website. So I talked about like Google reviews are like 30% of the puzzle, right? 50% of the puzzle. So just to break it down simply for people, like 30% is reviews, like 20% is simply like your proximity, like where your business address is located in comparison to where people are searching from, right? So if your business is very rural, SEO is probably not going to be a good play for you because you're going to be ranking in that rural area where there's not many people searching for you, right? If you're in the city center or somewhere in a populated area, your business, then SEO is going to do well for you because you're going to be ranking in an area where there's lots of people searching. So anyways, that's the other 20%. And then the other 50%, I'm simplifying here, but this is pretty accurate, is things on your website. It's going to be like how your website is optimized, how much content you have on, like how many pages of optimized content you have. The other thing is not on your website, but in SEO, a big thing is called backlinks or off-page SEO. And what that is getting other highly reputable websites to link to your site. And it tells Google and AI search engines, like, you should trust these guys or these gals because like all these other people that we trust are referencing them, right? And again, that's a very like technical and labor intensive process, super easy to waste money on, right? Like you have to find somebody good to do that. But the point of that whole thing is that like a lot of folks who will charge, under that $1,500, there's tons of people out there that'll charge like $600 a month for local SEO or $400 a month, right? And they're missing like 50% of the puzzle because ultimately it is about the maps, but the maps is just the tip of this iceberg that is your website and is all the other websites on the internet that are pointing to your website.
Sorry, I did that because my dog was barking so much. Yeah, it's like the iceberg is really your reputation and the foundation that you've built your business on.
Exactly.
And all talking about the 600 to 800, they're just looking at the tip, which is
Exactly.
just yeah, it
Exactly.
doesn't take into account everything else. That is a great way visually to explain it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, thanks
And
for
with
that.
AI searches, now more people are searching for landscaper on ChatGPT, right? Or Gemini or whatever it is. Those also, reviews are still huge there too. But your website and your web presence, it's not just your website, it's your web presence, right? Across other
Mhm.
sites, your site, things like that are a huge factor of what they look at, right? They crawl the internet and they're like checking, hundreds, and Google does this too. There's hundreds of different signals that they're checking for whether or not to show your Google Maps
You're
profile at the
active
top.
or you're
Yeah.
okay. Well, and
And
I guess
many of
that's what I
those,
wondered, like this podcast, is that something that gets picked up by the signals and verifies, what, let's say, we're doing, synced are doing.
yeah.
It will it capture those kind of outputs
Yeah.
as well?
For synced, when you do podcast episodes, you always want to link to your website. Just make sure you link to your
Okay.
website in the description. And if you're on
Yeah.
other podcasts, you want to ask them to like link to, if you're a guest, you want to ask them to link to your website in the description. And those are
Okay.
backlinks, like those help for
Yeah.
sure. So that's beneficial for synced for local SEO, for like landscapers trying to get in front of customers, 20 miles from their business. That's not going to be as relevant because
Okay.
it's not a local queue. It's, if there's like a reputable local podcast that's like about Baltimore or about, your
Yeah.
area.
If you're a landscaper in Baltimore and then you get on a
Exactly.
local podcast
Exactly.
and okay. Okay. Good.
Exactly. No, I mean, and again, it's not like, I would say that that's a good rule of thumb, right?
Yeah.
Like, for example, for our clients, we don't focus on podcasting as a strategy to like boost their local SEO. Is it helpful? Sure. Is it like the most important thing? No, not for local
No.
businesses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
No, this is great stuff.
But what else can I help you?
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think you've given the audience a lot to think about
Great,
and a lot of great tips that they can do themselves,
great.
and a way to budget for future help and to scale their business and get that next level of exposure. I think
Yeah.
that's a huge leap from doing it all yourself to having a 18,000, $20,000
Totally.
budget. So thanks for talking us through that and giving us the actual figures. Help so
Yeah.
much for planning for the
Abs-
future.
Absolutely. And it's the bad reputation is unfortunately of agencies is unfortunately real. Um, and but not everybody's like that. And so like when SEO, Google, I mean, same thing with ads, right? But when your Google presence is really working for you, it can does wonders for you. You know what I mean? We have 12 clients, 12 contractor clients that have been with us for over 6 months, because it's still working. Everything's working well for them. Um, Unfortunately, like there are a lot of, it's hard to find people you can trust, you know? So that's the other point of caution to people is like save up that $1,500 a month, right? But then,
Make sure you
be careful who you spend it with because there's a million,
look at the reviews. Yeah.
right? Look at the reviews, right?
Yeah.
There's a million nowadays, like the barrier to entry to my industry is like a laptop, it's like an internet connection. So it's like
Mhm.
there's people all over the world that can do what we do. And I'm sure many of them are really good, but like many of them are not.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no like verification or certifications or training you have to go through. It's none of that, right? It's the Wild West. So
Well, I think that being open and honest and transparent about what what it looks like for people helps. It goes a
yeah,
long way. So,
totally.
thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely.
You have to give us a link to your website. We'll put it
Sure,
in the
sure.
show
Yeah.
notes.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And yeah, tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah.
Wanna
So my
say
name is Gabe Bustos, and our company is called Hector Home Services Marketing. Hector Home Services Marketing, and it's just .com. So HectorHomeServicesMarketing.com.
awesome. Thanks for joining us today, Gabe.
Thank you, Angelique. I
See you
really
again
appreciate it.
soon. Sure. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.